Hello, everyone. This is Maggie Velasquez, the Dyslexia and Literacy Intervention Specialist for the Department of Education. Thank you so much for joining us for this assessment video series, where we will showcase the universal screeners and vendors who have been approved to meet the needs of the Move On When Reading and Dyslexia legislation for the 2022-23 school year. Although this video series does not replace the extensive training provided by each individual vendor, the video series gives a brief overview of each approved screener and may also be used to assist schools in making a universal screener selection. It was well put by the International Dyslexia Association. Screening measures, by definition, are typically brief assessments of a skill or ability that is highly predictive of later outcomes. Screening measures are designed to quickly differentiate students into one of two groups. One, those who require intervention, and two, those who do not. A screening measure needs to focus on a specific skill that are highly correlated with broader measures of reading achievement, resulting in highly accurate sorting of students. The following Move On When Reading and Dyslexia legislative requirements can be found at ARS 15-704. Each child who enters grades kindergarten through third will receive a universal literacy screener within 45 days of entry, as well as screened during the winter and spring benchmark periods. This benchmark data will be submitted to Move On When Reading team by October 1st, February 1st, and June 1st, which follows the normal Move On When Reading requirements. Each approved vendor has been through a rigorous vetting process by Arizona Department of Education request for information procedures. Each vendor provided extensive and technical information to make sure their products met the requirements. The submeasures here are broken down by grade level. You will hear directly from the vendors how their assessment tool measures each of these indicators. Universal screening tools should be administered by individuals who have taken the minimum training deemed appropriate by the vendor. All assessors should also follow the vendor's specific guidelines and recommendations for valid implementation. It takes deliberate and additional training to accurately interpret and analyze screening data. It is important to remember that screening alone does not diagnose dyslexia. Richard Selznick best reminds us, dyslexia screening is a tool for identifying children who are at risk for this learning disorder. This means screening does not diagnose dyslexia, rather it identifies predictor variables that raise red flags so parents and teachers can intervene early and effectively. Universal screening of all students is an important first step. Now I will turn it over to one of Arizona's approved vendors.
Hello, my name is Catherine Simmons, and I'm a professional learning consultant with iStation. I'm happy to announce that iStation has been named by the Arizona Department of Education as an approved universal literacy and dyslexia screener for the 2022-23 school year. I would like to explain to you how iStation's formative assessments can help you screen for risk factors of dyslexia, and how our adaptive curriculum, real-time reports, and teacher resources can help provide data-driven instructional support for educators in grades K through 3rd. iStation is a leader in computer adaptive intervention and instruction for reading, math, and Spanish literacy. More than 4 million students from pre-kindergarten through 8th grade learn with iStation's accurate assessments and interactive lessons. Nationally normed iStation's Indicators of Progress, or ISIP for short, measures student growth by providing monthly formative assessments that immediately place students on personalized instructional path unique to their needs. iStation is one of the nation's leading providers of richly animated, game-like educational technology. The iStation program helps educators by increasing their instructional time in the classroom through small group and collaborative instruction. iStation's innovative reading, math, and Spanish programs immerse students in an engaging and interactive environment and inspire them to learn. Additionally, administrators and educators can use iStation to easily track the progress of their students, schools, and classrooms. At iStation, we use a unique systematic approach to ensure success for all stakeholders. This approach includes the monthly automatic formative assessment for students. Once the assessment is complete, students are seamlessly placed into our adaptive curriculum based on their abilities, where they begin their journey of learning with support from iStation's unique characters who help teach and guide them. Educators will have immediate access to personalized data profiles and reports to help inform and guide instructional decision-making and intervention strategies. We also offer thousands of lesson plans, automated tools, and flexible resources in our teacher resources to help educators customize instruction and support diverse teaching approaches. Finally, we do offer professional development where you can receive customized guidance and insight into proven educational approaches, best practices, and more to help drive adoption, boost implementation, and optimize usage. The purpose of ISIP is to allow you to measure readiness for grade level instruction. You can then determine who may be at risk for struggling with core instruction and determine if interventions are needed and the degree of intensity the intervention needs to be. By progress monitoring monthly, you can measure student growth and view data reports to guide instructional decision-making and intervention strategies. The ISIP works by integrating computerized adaptive testing that accurately reflects the academic ability level of each student and measures growth over time. Essentially, computer adaptive testing meets students where they are. If a student gets a question right, they will receive a more rigorous question. If they miss it, they will receive a less rigorous question. Through this process of presenting items based on student performance, students who are achieving significantly above or below grade level expectations can be assessed more accurately so that the results reflect their true abilities. iStation's indicators of progress are powered by the science of reading. In accordance with initial dyslexia screening, iStation's universal screener provides reliable, continuous assessment in the 5 critical domains of early reading: phonemic awareness, alphabetic knowledge and skills, vocabulary, text fluency, and comprehension. Students can easily access the ISIP assessment with a simple click. Each student will begin the school year by taking an assigned set of ISIP subtests based on his or her grade level. The subtests students will take for their particular grade level are the skills that are most predictive of reading success for that grade. More advanced or more basic subtests will be added based on the student's overall reading ability index. When students complete their initial ISIP assessment, they will be placed into iStation's interactive online instruction. This online instruction is designed to supplement classroom instruction and provide students with intervention, additional practice, and extension activities. Engaging instruction is delivered on a needs-based path for students in pre-K through middle school to ensure that each student's needs are met. Students will move through the carefully organized instructional path at their own pace. Lessons allow for guided practice with instructional feedback before independent application of the skill. As students progress, they engage with a variety of lessons and activities centered around the Big 5 areas, and as they move through the continuum, they will encounter skills with increasing complexity. Struggling students receive reteach lessons, and teachers are given instant priority reports to monitor student progress. Each priority report directs teachers to specific skills-based small group lessons for targeted intervention. Additionally, each instructional cycle contains multiple teacher-directed lessons for further instructional differentiation and support. As with any supplemental or intervention program, a consistent approach is highly recommended and has shown to result in the greatest gains for students. To achieve the most valid and reliable results, iStation's administration guideline for our digital program is 30+ minutes per student per week. This is suggested for Tier 1 students, and 40 plus minutes per student per week is suggested for Tier 3 and Tier 2 students. This guideline includes a monthly ISIP assessment. As mentioned, you will have access to real-time data once students complete their monthly ISIP assessment. Understanding data is key to helping you determine next steps. iStation offers 3 distinct performance scales built to give educators the unprecedented power to classify student performance, shape intervention strategies, and define academic goals based on their school's strategic goals. These scales are levels of performance, intervention scales, and RTI Plus extended tiers. Using data from nationally normed iStation's indicators of progress, these 3 multi-tiered systems of support assist schools in predicting student success and provide teachers and administrators with the formative data they need to differentiate instruction. With ISIP's computer adaptive testing, students who complete an ISIP assessment are compared to a national sample of students who have taken the ISIP assessment. Instructional level goals enable teachers, parents, and students to know how their scores compare with the representative sample of students in their particular grade for the particular month in which the test was administered. The norming samples were obtained as part of iStation's ongoing research in assessing reading ability. Districts may choose the scale they use to monitor student growth, and iStation can also customize performance scales based on strategic needs. Regardless of the performance scale you use, these levels of performance will signal how ready the student is for grade level instruction and the level of instructional support a student may need. Now that we understand iStation's performance scales, let's take a look at how to use data through reports. iStation reports provide teachers and administrators with immediate data to inform effective instructional plans for students. The reports can be run at the class, grade, school, or district level, depending on the level of access and desired information. Results are provided in real time, immediately upon completion of the assessment, and are available 24/7 through the iStation website. You must have a login to access reports. Our reports include drill-down capabilities to detailed levels and provide information at the individual student, student subgroup, classroom, grade, campus, network, and district levels. Teachers can see which specific skills the student struggles with and provide targeted instruction for individuals or small groups. Reports automatically link to additional lessons for further intervention, and reports provide summary and skill information for the current and prior assessment periods that can be used to evaluate curriculum, plan instruction and support, and manage resources. Students' performance information is also available to parents. Parents are available to view student usage, reports, and parent-friendly resources in the parent portal. Parents use their child's iStation login credentials to access Parent Portal through the iStation website. Teachers must provide login information to the parents or guardians of students. iStation provides teachers with an informational letter that may be sent home following each ISIP assessment, which is designed to be easy for parents to understand. The letter is located in the Teacher Toolbox area of the website and is available in both English and Spanish. 2 key reports that will help you determine just right scaffolding supports for students are the Student Summary Handout and Priority Reports. The Student Summary Handout report provides a summary of the individual student's assessment performance. Growth trends and percentile ranks for each subtest will help you identify students' skill strengths and areas of growth and allow you to reflect on the student's instructional plan. You can also find usage details, Lexile measure, and priority alerts on the Student Summary Handout. The Priority Report uses ISIP assessment results to identify students who demonstrate significant weakness in any part of the assessment. The report groups students by skill need and performance scale. For each grouping, the report includes links to recommended teacher-directed lessons that are specific to the identified area and level of need. The lessons can be adapted, if needed, for ELLs, students with special needs, and students reading below grade level. An additional report you have available to help you identify students who may be at risk for reading difficulties is the ISIP Early Reading at-Risk Report. This report helps educators identify and track the number of students who may be at risk for dyslexia, dysgraphia, learning disorders in reading comprehension, and other reading difficulties. These risk indicators are provided at the subtest level to better distinguish the types of skills that may need intervention or remediation. The report can be filtered on the number of risk indicators or for specific risk indicators to help teachers identify students that need close monitoring or intensive intervention. In first, second, and third grades, ISIP Reading assesses foundational skills associated with success in reading, including letter-sound relationships, letter naming, phonological awareness, encoding or spelling, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. If the student is struggling in any of these areas, it may indicate that they are at risk for dyslexia, dysgraphia, disorders in reading comprehension, or other reading difficulties. Students with multiple risk indicators face a higher risk of having reading difficulties. If low scores are consistent with prior history and classroom performance, then these students will need close monitoring and appropriate intervention. If the student does not respond to intervention, the student may need to be considered for additional evaluation. Now that we have a better understanding of iStation's ISIP assessment, interactive instruction, and some key reports, let's take a look at two other screeners that are available to students and can help you determine if students are at risk for reading difficulties. ISIP Oral Reading Fluency, or ORF, and ISIP Rapid Automatized Naming, or RAN. RAN and ORF can be administered in various locations, including the classroom, computer lab, and small group settings. iStation best practices include ensuring the following are available for students: noise-canceling headphones, a microphone, and a reasonably quiet location. Students can easily access RAN and ORF with a few simple clicks on various devices, such as an iPad or tablet, desktop computer, or laptop. ORF is a cutting-edge assessment that uses voice recognition technology to automatically measure oral reading fluency for elementary students in grades K through 5 by using leveled passages. Students will see both fiction and nonfiction passages, and all passages have been carefully vetted to ensure that they are grade level appropriate, using both the Flesch-Kincaid grade level scale and Lexile to verify. They are not computer adaptive. There are enough passages so that kids can take ORF monthly without seeing any repeats. The assessment only takes 5 to 7 minutes. For many students, assessing at the fall, winter, and spring benchmarks will be enough. But for those at risk, we encourage monthly assessments. Decades of research have shown ORF to be highly correlated with reading comprehension, especially for young, emerging readers, which makes it useful as a screening tool. It allows us to determine if a student is academically well with regard to reading. It's like a thermometer. Taking a temperature can tell you if there's a problem, but it doesn't identify the cause of the fever. Likewise, ORF progress monitoring cannot determine the root cause, but it alerts us to who requires immediate attention. Once we know there is an issue, we can use other tools to diagnose the underlying problems and intervene. Then, we can continue to progress monitor our students to track growth throughout the year. The RAN assessment is intended to measure a student's ability to recognize a visual symbol, such as a letter, number, or object, and to name it with precision and speed. These types of tests are also referred to as naming speed tasks, which provide an index of how fast the brain can integrate visual and verbal processes. These processes have been identified as being essential to both oral and written language. Thus, tests such as these with letters and numbers are well-known predictors of reading performance and reading failure. The RAN assessment consists of 3 subtests: pictures, numbers, and letters. RAN is available for kindergarten through 3rd grade students. These students record themselves naming familiar symbols, such as pictures, numbers, and letters, as quickly as they can without making mistakes. Teachers can then listen to these recordings and score them at their convenience. Scores are provided in the RAND score report, which shows scaled and percentile scores for each subtest. The RAND assessment takes approximately 5 to 7 minutes to complete. There are 40 total symbols arranged on 4 pages, and each page has 2 rows of 5. The identification, practice, and assessment steps repeat for pictures, numbers, and letters. For all 3 subtests, we selected items that were as universal as possible, could be used as early as kindergarten, and also sounded and looked different from one another to avoid confounding the results as much as possible, making it feasible to auto-score in the future using voice recognition technology. As educators, it's important to understand why we should give our students the RAND assessment. There are several lines of research and reading regarding why there is a relationship with RAND and a student's reading ability. While RAND is not an academic skill that is meant to be taught or practiced, it nonetheless serves as a powerful predictor of students at risk of reading difficulties, such as dyslexia, especially when combined with other foundational reading skills. There are several uses for RAND assessments: the early identification of students at risk for reading and learning difficulties, the ongoing assessment of cognitive processes involved in naming speed and reading fluency, and the assessment of basic word retrieval system development. Literature has shown that RAND assessments are one of the best predictors of later reading disability. Reading difficulties surface when we attach letters or combinations of letters to sounds, and students at risk for dyslexia have trouble identifying the letters or combinations of letters that go with a particular sound. Reading difficulties may be identified as early as kindergarten, and children can receive targeted intervention in areas that may prevent or decrease any later learning deficiencies. Thus, early identification may enable teachers and parents to provide more in-depth diagnostic testing to complement classroom instruction. One great feature of RAND is that it can be administered to pre-readers, meaning that it can fill gaps left by other screening tools. It is important to note that iStation's RAND assessment is not a diagnostic tool. The goal of this assessment is to identify students who may need additional attention from trained professionals. ISIP RAND is designed to be administered alone or alongside the ISIP reading assessment as part of the screening process. RAND will be available for students during benchmark months as follows. The beginning of year window is from August to November, middle of year is from December to February, and the end of year window is from March to July. Once a student has completed the RAND assessment within a given benchmark period, the assessment will not be available to take again until the next benchmark month period. Teachers can assign an on-demand assessment if a student needs to retest. Let's take a closer look at some of the features of your RAND report. On the left-hand side, I mentioned that you will see a list of your students. You also have the option to type in a student name in the student search bar and the ability to expand a student row to see multiple assessment dates. Once you have scored an assessment, you will have the ability to toggle between the scaled score and raw data. You will also see the student's percentile. Percentile ranks are a means of expressing student performance relative to the RAND norming sample and can be used to share with students' parents. Percentile ranks indicate the percentage of the distribution that is equal to or below a particular score. For example, a percentile rank of 60 means that 60% of the normed sample scored at or below the student's score. The data that populates under the pictures, numbers, and letters columns is sortable, allowing you to put this data in ascending or descending order. If items have not yet been scored, you will see text alerting you that it is ready to score. You also have the option to export this report. This table may be used to guide you in identifying students at risk based on RAND scores. As mentioned, the RAND assessment is intended to measure a student's ability to recognize a visual symbol, such as a letter, number, or object, and to name it with precision and speed. Given the close correspondence between naming and reading processes, low performance on the RAND tasks in early grades may be an indication that the student may need further evaluation and/or intervention. Before we complete our tutorial, I'd like to point out a few more features that can be beneficial for teachers. The first feature is on-demand assessments. On-demand assessments allow you to reassess a student. There are several reasons you may want to perform an on-demand assessment, such as more frequent progress monitoring of a particular skill, an unscorable RAND or ORF passage, or to retest a student who was interrupted or performed atypically on the previous assessment. To schedule an on-demand RAND assessment, go to the Classroom page and click on the On-Demand Assessment tab. Next, choose the product you'd like to reassess, then click the box or boxes beside the student's name. Finally, click Update On-Demand Assessment. Once scheduled, the assessment will begin upon the student's next login to iStation. Two final features I'd like to point out are Teacher Station and Teacher Resources. Once students have been identified as being at risk for reading difficulties, teachers can target areas of need with additional lessons from our Teacher Resources and Teacher Station. You will have access to digital lessons in Teacher Station and thousands of printable lessons in Teacher Resources to help provide just-in-time scaffolds to students. Teacher Station can be assessed once you are logged into the iStation website. You will find digital lessons, songs, games, and activities that can be used for whole group engagement, mini lessons, reteach lessons, or to front-load new content. These lessons can be projected onto interactive boards to allow for student engagement. Teacher Resources can be accessed once you are logged into the website. The Teacher Resources section provides access to a treasure trove of educator-directed lessons and additional materials to drive instruction. As an addition to the computer-driven interactive instruction, Teacher Resources provides written lessons to be used between the educator and students. These can be used in small group or whole group scenarios. You can easily type in the skill you would like resources for and use the search filters to narrow down your search. Aside from lessons, you can access downloadable and printable games, books and fluency passages, and graphic organizers, to name a few. With that, we have come to the end, and I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Having the right formative assessment can mean the difference between identifying students at risk of reading difficulties in first rather than third grade. This can make a world of difference for your students. I wish you the best for the remainder of your school year. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for choosing iStation.